Hi guys, the group I will be presenting on for my community project will be the Creighton Navigators here on campus. This group is not just a club, but a family here on Creighton's campus. A family that I can proudly say that I'm starting to be a part of since my first few weeks here on campus. The warmth and inclusiveness of this community is immense. The main reason that I was drawn to this community was the fact that I grew up in a faith-centric family, and that continued in my high school years. I ended up going to a very strict Catholic all-boys school where I thought my faith was really strengthened there as I became an oblate at the monastery it was a Benedictine monastery. Long story short, I became more immersed in my faith life at that said school, so I wanted to continue my faith journey here at Creighton's campus. Once it got shut down, Creighton Navigators seemed like any other campus ministry, college campus, but as I looked into it, it had aspects that made it different from all those other campus ministry sorts. One of those major aspects was the vast network of navigators that are spread across the country. There are many groups of navigators on other college campuses, like the University of Colorado Boulder, for example. Just that large network of people really drew me in. So this led to a vast network of navigators throughout the country and even the world as I was looking at it. And this small community at Creighton is actually a part of a bigger community in the world. Another difference is that the navigators advertise themselves as a community for non-denomination Christian, large majority of denominations of Christians. And this was especially inviting towards me as I am not Catholic, but Episcopalian, which is a part of the Anglican Communion of Christianity. Most of the meetings are held at the Jesuit Gardens here on campus, so I drew a map that modeled that. So the main map that I drew here was the main meeting place of the Navs during COVID. Because of that, we have to be outside, and so it's a map of the Jesuit Gardens. And in this map, which will be up right here, you can see group of main 4 circles in a grassy area of the Jesuit Gardens. The small circles represent the communities for Bible study and discussion, and this is so that members can each have their own voice and throughout the multiple discussions, as opposed to having a larger group that makes it harder to share your own voice. And so this emphasizes the community's values of inclusiveness and expressing your own voice, because they really want you to talk about what you learned and what you read, and that you're encouraged to speak your mind on your interpretation of that passage. And that way you get more ideas with the more people talk, and the closeness of these small groups emphasizes that even in these small groups, that you're one big group. And this sort of reflects the idea, as I stated earlier, that there may be a small group of Navs here right now, but it also comes at there's a bunch of navigators across the entire world and country, and so you're together just in spirit with your brothers and sisters as a part of a community at Creighton and across the world with other navigators. Okay, so now we're on to the language of the navigators. The language of the navigators tends to be more simplified than normal speaking, and this is mainly the main simplification is usually for the name, the Creighton Navigators. And I've said it a couple times, but just for the sake of time, it was easier just to say the abbreviation. So the Creighton Navigators usually refer to themselves as Navs. It's quicker and easier, and honestly, it sounds a lot better than saying Navigators, or just something similar to the word. We usually meet every Thursday night in something that's called Nav Night. It kind of just is really catchy and rolls off the tongue really easily instead of saying Navigators meeting on Thursday night or something else that's a lot more complicated than it needs to be. Common phrase that is heard in the Navigators group me is, does anyone want, and then you just kind of fill in the blank. This really emphasizes the inclusivity of navigators and how it's a family rather than a group. Almost every other day someone has an activity to include these other fellow navigators, and so almost anyone can join what they want to, and if they're busy, it's no big deal because you can go to anything else. Another thing is you can see a lot of cans instead of will, so you're not forced to come to anything. It's kind of only on your own time. So if you're not into Bible study but you're more into the mentoringship, you can really dive more into that. And everyone's suggestions for like group activities and that stuff are usually taken into account because you're all seen as kind of equals. There's sort of a hierarchy, so like organized meetings, because you kind of have to have that a bit, but everyone is seen as more as equals that can like offer up their own suggestions and hangouts just to meet more of the people of the Navigators and get to know them better. And a large portion of the words that are used to advertise these things are sort of more upbeat and exciting, because obviously you want people to come to them. And so instead of writing out like what's actually happening, it's sort of written in like almost like a theater script almost, to make it sound epic and exciting. That's the best way I can describe it. Now onto the Intellect. This community shows Intellect in the basic foundation of it. It's basically sort of like a theology class, as we're discussing and doing like reading Bible passages and interpreting that. And so, but in Gramsci's writing, he talks about how there's two types of intellectuals, organic and inorganic intellectuals, and I believe the Navs both represent both of those, because they're learning about theology, which is sort of like an organic, because you could learn that in a Catholic school, so you can learn that in a normal way. But they're also inorganic intellectuals because many of the members are very talented at other things that you wouldn't see as mainly intellect, like singing for worship, or a bunch of games that we play as groups just to like get to know each other better. Like they play werewolves, Among Us, and a bunch of other games. Another intellect thing that is kind of close to is from the Keenard reading, which is from the Candy Girls, and I see it as like religion is not much of a topic that we hear people talk about today in like normal conversation. And so normally when it comes to my faith, I really don't bring that up unless I know someone is believing like me, because there's a lot of people now more than ever that see religion as something to be kind of talk about more with a family or a close group of people, like a faith family. And so I see it as that I want to share that with people that understand where I'm at and will respect that, because some people don't, because we're seeing more and more people just not believe in a church or God, and that's kind of sad to me, but it's just something I really don't want to bring up just to ruin like relationships with people. So it's really nice to have a faith community that I can talk about that stuff with and live out my faith with those people who understand. Basically what I'm talking about is it's not like discrimination like they faced in their the mid 1950s or mid 1900s, and that, because it's not true. It's not discrimination. It's not as bad. It's definitely not as bad, but it's sort of similar in a way. You just kind of don't really talk about it that much in normal life, so it's nice to have a community where you can talk about that stuff with, and they understand what you're going through and respect that and appreciate what you're doing in your faith life. So, and that's just like a type of intellect. You just share that intellect with each other, and even though you don't show it much to the world, which you can, but some people take that for granted, so it's nice to have like an intellectual community that you can talk about and discuss these things with. Alright, you're probably now tired of me just droning on about this community, even though it's so interesting, but I'll just wrap this up. The Nav community is a very inclusive faith community that is more of a family than a group. The Navs use this language in their faith to bring a wide variety of people from different backgrounds and different Christian faiths to form a singular unit as a part of the Navigators on Creighton's campus, as a part of this countrywide, worldwide organization. Well, thanks again for listening to me talking about this community that I found on Creighton's campus and have become a part of. And I hope to see you guys soon. See you later.